I'm Boni.
I'm Sax of Boni and Sax. I realized that, bed linen and something like your sleep when you go back home after a long day. You go back home and, that moment when you actually place your head on the pillow. And that is the time when you just pause, reflect. And it is that space which transforms from one day to the other. And it's that pause that, and at that moment of stillness you're spending in bed is what Boni and Sax is all about. I want to first tell you why Boni. While Boni was very happy living a beautiful life, I dragged him into this and I told him, listen, I need you and you need to partner up with me on this.
I've been with Sakshi as a life partner now since 2010. We were together since 2002. Sometime in 2017, when she was going through her journey and we were discussing it one evening that, she was onto something, right? And creatively, she's fantastic. Her design sense is amazing. And I professionally have been setting up new businesses in India, and it just kind of made sense because I know the challenges every single new business goes through.
I think I work better as a solo player, and that's always been my strength. But when I decided to start a collection, I decided to start a brand, I soon realized that it's not just about designs. There's and a beautiful product, but there's a lot of other things that go behind making a successful brand, which I lacked in me.
And as I said, Sakshi just did not want to deal with those lesser show-off things than what it is.
So I was great at designing, but operations, accounting, logistics, kind of just putting the whole thing together, the behind the scenes is something that I was just incapable of doing.
And that's how the two of us came together. And I still remember that evening where we were just sitting and talking, and she was discussing her frustration with regards to how the India market is. And during the course of the evening, and we were and I was just giving her recommendations saying, what if we do this? What if we go ahead and set this system up? What if we go do this? She was like, why don't you join me? And that's how this journey started.
This brand is going to basically be him and half me. And that's how I said, you know what? We've been together for so many years and we're going to build this together. So let's call it Boni and Sax. And also it has a great ring to it. So I said, let's go with it. And it just happened that way. That's why we're Boni and Sax. Actually, I wanted to kind of tell you the story behind our first showroom. We were operating out of our home office very comfortably until, one of our big shipments came in and my living room was full of 20 cartons. And that's when I realized that we need an office space. We need a space where we can at least hold inventory. And at that time, it was just Boni and I. So I was like, we need to have a kind of an office space where we can, work out of. This home office is not going to work anymore. So, keeping that in mind, we started looking for places. Moni and me are typical South Bombay people. We did not want to venture too far. So we started looking for some nice buildings and places in Colaba.
It was 9 months, boss. 9 months. We must have seen over 50 properties. 45 were rejected. Why were they rejected? Maybe the color was off, maybe just too noisy, maybe she just didn't like the building. But there's no reason, just rejected.
And then we kind of expanded our search into Fort and Ballad Estate.
I remember being on a work call and I remember getting a call from Sakshi and she's like, I think I found the place.
I came with my broker and he showed me this place. It was a dilapidated building. My first impression was, when I looked at it, I said, how old is this building? And he said, it's over 100 years old. I said, okay.
So, after 50 properties that we've rejected, after 9 months, I'm thinking she's going to tell me, oh, it's this beautiful building and it's got these, just the vibe is great and all of this. And she goes like, this building can fall anytime.
I said, and which floor are we looking at? He said, no, it's the ground floor right here. I said, okay, nice, interesting. Okay, it's the ground floor. And he opened this really old lock and lifted the shutter up. And the moment I walked inside, it was like empty, expansive area with beautiful high ceiling. And I just stood there at the door. I didn't even take the step in. I just stood there at the door and while I walked in, I realized, I said, yeah, I like it. It was just this instant feeling that maybe I could make something out of this.
So I'm glad that actually happened because we actually started off. This is where the combination comes in well, right? Because I have done new businesses, so I start thinking a bit on the ROI, and I start thinking, no, but does it make sense for us to do this? Sakshi is more of a why person, the energy person, the creative person. She's like, let's do it. I was like, fine, you want to get it done? We'll get it done.
I said, but do we need such a big space? So he said, see, the thing is that we are going to expand. We're going to have a team. We need a place where our team can work out of. So he said, don't think about now, but let's think about the future, and we will need a space like this. I said, yeah, okay, makes sense.
So we said, okay, fine, deal closed, we'll sign up for 6 years. I said, okay, fine. I've kept, say, X as the budget to do the interiors and architect. Sakshi like, yeah. We went 4X of that price. Sakshi like, yeah. But we did it. So I think that's where it kind of ends up happening. I think she sees the vision. She sees how it's going to happen. And that's why I say I'm behind the scenes. I'm still very uncomfortable being on this video. But after 2 days of shooting, I was said, sit down here and shoot it. So that's been our journey about the showroom so far.
Yes, and opening this flagship store was our, I would say, the first milestone ever. Bonnie and Saks' first milestone. Yeah. There's so many bed linen brands in India, and they're all catering to the mass market, or they are export houses, which then kind of start a retail outlet and then push all the export surplus into the retail market and the domestic market, and that is actually our bed linen brands. That's the current state of our bed linen industry currently in India. So I just felt like maybe because it is so mass produced, you just end up picking up the same thing over and over again. There's no customization in that. There's no thought into that. It's just factories producing the same thing over and over again. So when I actually wanted to start my own brand, I was very particular about the fact that I want to create designs which are specific to my brand. I want to create it out of fabric that is specific to my brand. So, of course, we went to a lot of vendors, and we were also very particular about the fact that we didn't want fabric that is mass-produced and then exported. So we didn't want any of that export surplus stuff. So we were very, very specific about, the kind of fabric we want, and we actually custom make and get that produced from the mills. And that is the basis of our brand. We don't want to mass produce. We want each and every design to have a story and be in limited numbers. So each and every design automatically becomes a limited edition. So we literally make like just 10, 15 pieces of each design. And once it's sold out, we kind of move on to new designs. And that's how we keep refreshing our collection. And that's the whole essence of our brand as well. We don't mass produce. Boney & Sachs takes a lot of inspiration from the Zen Japanese philosophy. And the whole essence of that philosophy, Zen philosophy, is minimalism and simplicity. And that is what we wanted to incorporate in our designs. And so if you see our designs, they are just simple details that make a big difference. And so it is all about simplicity and minimalism, and that is actually true luxury in today's day and age. There's another very interesting Japanese philosophy I wanted to actually talk about. It's called Ma, M-A, Ma. And when I read about it, it kind of really touched me, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. The whole concept of Ma is an empty space. It is about, a pause. That negative space. So in music, the notes are very important, yes, to create music, but it's the empty space between the notes that makes a difference and that makes the rhythm. And when I was thinking about this philosophy, and it was so deep, and I realized that, bed linen and something like your sleep, when you go back home after a long day, you go back home and, that moment when you actually place your head on the pillow. And that is the time when you just pause, reflect, and it is that space which transforms from one day to the other. And it's that pause that, and at that moment of stillness you're spending in bed is what Boney & Sachs is all about. I wanted to actually bring our designs and bring our bed linen and have that feel where in today's day and age, where everyone is running from one place to another, one meeting to another, this part of stillness is so important. And that is shared with Boney & Sachs. So that is basically the whole essence of quiet luxury. That is true luxury, when you can, just spend some time of stillness with yourself. And that's the essence of Boney & Sachs designs.
One of the initial days I still remember is our challenges with production. Not that that's taken care of, but what we were trying to do, because we don't build for everyone and we build for people who like the finer things, we knew that we were not going to buy greater quantities. And because we went with smaller quantities, it was finding somebody who believed in your vision, right? And Sakshi will always tell you about this partner that we met who helped us kick off.
And at that time, the projects that I was working with and the architects I was working with, I kind of just showed it to them and I gave them an idea of how I want to kind of dress up the bed for these particular clients. And they looked at it and they were like, yeah, this is amazing. Where did you get it from? I said, well, that's a secret. I can't tell you. So I said, but do you like it? And the response was great. And they were like, yeah, let's do this. I said, and soon enough, I mean, those pieces were sold out like in a couple of months. And I went back to the vendor and I told him, you know what? I started with your designs. I'm going to give you mine now. And you have to make it.
So over the years, we've evolved from relying on a manufacturer to then going and constructing our own fabric from scratch, from be it from the cotton to the mills to find the unit that we would do. It's very important to understand India actually has fantastic manufacturing capability. So a lot of times people ask us, are you a manufacturing house? And the answer is no, we are actually a design studio. You know, it's Sakshi's vision, it's her design, and we follow a model where we spend a lot of times. And this is the part where I brought the tech background, the digital background, because we designed, we would spend a lot of time prototyping and sampling. And once we had that under control, we would find the right partners to kind of manufacture exactly what we needed. And that's been our journey on production. And if you see our learnings over the last 7 to 8 years, our fabric has evolved. We have understood what it takes to make a great fabric. It's now constructed for us from scratch. You know, very often people think that a great fabric is equal to a great thread count. The honesty is that thread count is actually a unit of measure of feel. It's not a unit of measure of durability. And during our journey, we realized that the yarn count is the most important thing to make our bedsheet durable. And that's something that we have experienced it ourselves. I mean, I'm very proud to say that our bed sheets can last for 3 years, right? And that was just the base fabric of our production. From there, when we went to the stitching units, we realized how important it is to get the quality of stitching also right. And I think it took us about 3.5 years before our own stitch came out. I mean, people would say, oh, but that's not really good business sense, because, you know, you want it to kind of replace. What I would say is, again, we are a design studio. Most of our customers come back to us in 12 to 14 months because they appreciate what we bring to the table. They kind of understand what the creativity it is, and they want to just refurbish their look again. And that's been our production journey. And I'm 100% sure we're going to keep getting better and better at production. We're going to keep pushing the limits. We are going to make for India first. We do not take the surplus of what's available and put it back in the market.
We've done a lot of research. We've gone and figured out what is the best cotton, where we can get the best Indian cotton. We've gone and got the Indian cotton. We've gone to mills and given them exact specifications of what my yarn count is supposed to be and what the feel and the luxury, the softness that it's supposed to bring. So we've gone down to each and every element to make sure that each, from fabric to design to everything feels perfect and feels like a luxury. And we always tell our clients that, don't go by thread count, but just shop by feel, which is also one of the reasons why we do not sell online, because bed linen is such a personal choice, and it is something that you need to touch and feel before you buy it. So we always encourage our clients to come in and feel the fabric and fall in love and then buy it.
So once we receive our shipment, like after the whole finalization of designs, once we receive our shipments, we do a QC of every piece that comes in our house, and we check one stitch. If even I find that the corner isn't matched and everything gets rejected and it gets remade. So we are very particular about the QC.
I never knew this phase until I didn't join this industry, and I started meeting my production guys and the export house people, and they're like, sir, 19-20 chalta hai. I never understood that term 19-20 kya hota hai. Until you meet someone like Sakshi. She will say, this white does not match that white. I did not know there could be multiple whites. I thought there was only one white. Then I realized there's optic white, there's milky white, there's galaxy white, there's so many other different whites. So when we started doing a QC, our team has got trained so much that they know what Sakshi's eye will reject and what will approve, right? So we do our QC at the production house. We do our QC before it leaves the production unit. We do the QC once it arrives in the showroom, and a final QC is always done before we ship out a product. Now that's actually our process of QC, and the reason we're doing this is it's something that people are going to experience, and you can't have 19-20 on something that you're going to sleep on. You cannot have 19-20 on something. I mean, would you do this for a wedding lehenga, right? Would you do it for your what the grooms wear, right? You want the fit to be perfect. You want the design to be perfect. And that's the way I actually look at it, right? We dress up your bed the way you dress up for the day of your wedding. Everything has to fit to your vision. And the QC plays the most important part. And that takes back to our craftsmanship. Now, a lot of brands will talk, and I appreciate it, and they'll talk about craftsmanship. But till the time we didn't start this journey, 9 out of 10 karigars refused to take our job. They were like, इसमें तो बहुत मजबज होने वाली है, because they knew that this quality of work will only be done by a certain experience of people. So that's how we take pride that every single thing in our supply chain is about quality. As I said, we're a design studio. That's what our focus is going to be.